We're still coming to invest. We talk about investing, finance, and professionalism for today's terms only. The investment gun talk today will be Ethereum Ticket Teach. First, I want to say happy Sunday, everybody. Also, happy Halloween to everybody. Respect to recording time of 12:19 p.m. on the Eastern Time. Ethereum currently trading $4,199, down about 2.92% so far. On the overall crypto market, it's relatively flat again, right, with respect to the lack of activities on the media front today. It seems like the holiday of Halloween is in full effect. A lot of publication companies are maybe taking a break, right? Because I've been looking into the news basically the whole day so far. I think collectively we only have like one or two news that we've mentioned already this morning. But it's our normal cadence is to go through the momentum and how to triangulate on the risk management levels based on the technical front. So let's just dive into the technicals. Despite it might be a little bit regurgitating, but it's always important for us to stay up to date with respect to how we're trending, right? So let's just dive right into the technicals. With respect to Ethereum right now, it's currently down about close to 3% right now. On the MACD front, we are forming a curvature downward right now. As you can see that prominently, the MACD line is slowly crossing down to the blue signal line. And as that crossed, it will form a death cross, right? And we see that we have tried, to do so. But with respect to the Bitcoin surge, right, that revived back above the $60K level, and I think we touched the, on the basically a clip of it, of the $63,000 and then subsequently reverse back down. And with that drag effect, Ethereum also followed, which hit an all-time high at the 4,463, which very typical, right? Bitcoin leads the effort and then all the other altcoin, or in this case, Ethereum follows through, right? It's always like a day or like a 2 days type of lag effects that we've observed over time. And right now is a good sign because we're slowly depleting to the 58 out of 70. So, it's much better than to buy it when it's running extremely hot, right? Remember, this is a good thing. As the price goes down, the risk also goes down as well. We always want to buy when the risk is more depleted, right? I know it's a kind of a reverse psychological effect, right? When you see the price going down and you see your balance going down, it's like, oh, am I losing money right now? Or am I, are we crashing? Are we correcting? But actually, that's a good thing in the risk management perspective, right? So we should, basically correct a thinking, right? And I'm never making like the price entry level as like that's the perfect one, that's the correct one. Is always to be approaching it from a risk averse perspective. We are in the business of risk managing, risk mitigating. And when we dollar cost average, we are dollar cost average because of incurring calculated risk, not risk that you feel like it, not risk that you feel like because we're falling off the cliff, so we're buying the dip. It's never that like binary type of affectation. Is always a calculated way of looking into the macro and also looking into the technicals and the micro dynamics to understand what's the right executions, right? So that's Ethereum, and I think as we go down, we're going to obviously test the 4,000 and then 3,840, 3,475, which you can see that's a relatively big gap here if we break that, right? And then technically a 3,150. So these are the levels that we want to incur risk going forward, right? But you could technically incur risk now. Like you don't have to listen or, because long-term wise, we're going to see much higher levels from here. It's just that in a short-term perspective, how greedy do you want to be in terms of waiting until the prices go down? Because I could technically be completely wrong. Because let's say like a billionaire or a couple of billionaires, they, give the heads up to the financial institutions that they, hey, we want to buy Ethereum. We're going to be basically investing $10 billion of their assets into Ethereum. That's going to change the course of nature completely, right? And ultimately, with more money or monetary power, drives the market. They're the market makers, right? We are investors investing based on momentum and based on risk management levels, right? So that's important to know. So with respect to Bitcoin, let's go right into it. You can see that we're at the cusp of breaking 60K. And today we will open a relatively lower level as well. But right now, do we see this is a downward wedge or are we at an upward wedge? That's non-confirmatory, right? And it's kind of early for us to tell. But if this is gonna be more of a zigzag sideways, but more leaning more of a upward edge, you're gonna see some sort of like an upward flag, right? And if that's the case, that means this is a negative pattern. But luckily, the risk is decreasing at the 54 out of 70 right now. So as we deplete back to the 56, as we deplete back to 54, or ideally, I think that could be a stretch technically, the 47 or the $40,000 mark, right? But remember, we do have a relatively large gap that's been filled by public investors. So technically, if we break the pattern and we have a one whale sell-off, right, just like a relatively sizable green candle, public investors and also with respect to the media front is going to start talking negatively, and then you're going to see a bunch of basically public investors following through that fear, right? And when you get the fear of basically that the feeling of losing your money, you're gonna sell or cut your losses, right? Next thing you're gonna slide off the cliff like a ladder, and then you're gonna come back down to the more of a deplete level. But I could be totally wrong, right? Because again, if a whale decide to pump us, that's a different story ultimately, right? But that's why we look at the MACD and the RSI to see how much of an outlier are we forming, and also look at the volume to see how much are we away from the standard deviation of the chart, right? So Dogecoin right now, we're leaning downward right now. We could see that well back prominently with the 51 out of 70. So I think ideally something coming back down to the 23 to the 20 cents level would be more ideal, right? And you can see whatever goes up really, really fast comes down just as fast. So ideally, I think we should be testing somewhere around like the 25, which is a good consolidation zone. We break that, we will go down to the 20s, obviously, right? Respect to Cardano, right now we're just following through the Dogecoin pattern as well. We're at the 37 out of 70, so this is a relatively good level of depletion. So I think ideally buying at the 191, or right now it's not a bad level actually, but that's really contingent. Do we go further below the 190? Right, you could see that people immediately bought back up. So there's a lot of appetites around the 180-ish, 185-ish levels as well, right? Solana is currently being sustained, and people are contemplating, do we go above 200 or do we go below 200? We're below 200 for quite some time now, and with respect to the wedge, I don't know if this is like a wedge. Like, seems like it's more like a upward wedge as well, and this is a relatively negative pattern. On top of the fact that we have that curvature of a whale, and we are about to fuse together. We are still at the 60 out of 70, so I think a sell-off is imminent, and ideally coming back down to, where is it? To the first level, 137 to the 113, or somewhere around like the 125 is not surprising because we do have some, but it's not like substantial. But ideally coming back down to 113 and the 93 if we break the 100, but 100 is going to be relatively monumental, right, for obvious reasons. And then XRP right now is up about 1.02%, suffering between the two lines, right, like 110 versus 101. So we have to watch right now, and I think that might be some bullish momentum coming with the 50 out of 70. So XRP is in a different pattern right now. We are forming a more of a curvature upward, and we have to see, right? It seems like there is an upward wedge as well, so that could be, technically a negative sign, but we are still relatively more of a deplete level, right? Like the 50 out of 70, and we are forming a scoop up right now. So technically, we could be leaping up. So I think XRP is kind of a mixed signal right now. It's kind of like, it looks like it's coming up, but it's kind of still leaning up for upper echelon of overbought. And we do have, let's see how much of a substantive level we have above, right? I think we might technically go up to like the 118 if we have a bullish pressure. If we don't, we break down and go to 93. So it's not a bad level, right? It's basically contingent on, do we break the $1? If we break the $1, we go down, right? Obviously, but it seems like we're holding on relatively okay, and we still like at a depletion level. So I think I'm leaning more bullish on XRP right now. Polkadot, we formed def cross and we're curving down right now, and there's still a lot of negative pattern. We have this gap that will need to be filled, so this is something that you have to fill eventually. So I think ideally 35 to 25 would be a good level for you to dollar cost average at. I think somewhere in the middle would be good because you don't want to be too greedy and waiting too long, right? With that 55, 70. So I think ideally deplete back to 35 would be a good dip. But for me, I don't have any polkadot, so I think 25 would be much better. And then Algorand, it is a very negative pattern right now. We are curving down. We don't have any signals of surging right now, and I think right now we're still relatively at the 50 out of 70, so it's not terrible. And I don't think the sell-off is going to be crazy, but I think we're going to get back to like the 160 to 150, which is still some room, but it's not like crazy crash, but still like we should be technically seeing some selling pressure coming. Shiba Inu right now is I think the apex was hit already. I don't think we're gonna keep surging up again, because like that's like 2 times of subsequent surge, and then we have this mega green surge, right? And I don't think testing out luck is gonna be logical at the moment. On top of the fact that right now we're still overbought the 70 out of 70, and I think we are showing some indicator that the apex was formed already. But we have to see, right? Because this seems like a downward flag, right? And it's pointing more of a downward trend, but it's still relatively early, so I don't want to be speaking so prematurely at the moment. But I think ideally, if this was like a downward wedge, we will basically squeeze until we hit that apex of the squeeze and then surge up again. So Shiba Inu is, I would say, I give this maybe a more of a 60-40 ratio. In terms of 60 will be coming back down because we've already dragged up so much already. With the rest of the percentage, 40% of a possible surge. Actually I give this more of a 70% of a downward wedge, downward surge, downward sell-off, and then 30% of an upward surge likelihood. So hopefully this is helpful. And with respect to the risk management levels, these are again, right, the risk management level, not like the way, I'm not predicting that we will sell off to these levels. Again, these, I just want to make sure these are risk management levels, right? You want to technically incur risk when the risk is depleted. You don't want to be incurring risk when risk is high, right? And right now the technical is showing the risk is high, right? And again, as the price goes up, the risk increases simultaneously. It's a correlation effect. As the risk goes down, the price also goes down simultaneously as well, right? So something to be mindful of. So really appreciate you for dropping by again on this Halloween day. I hope you guys have fun and have a good rest of the day. It's a relatively nice day in New York, but I'm not dressing up. I don't plan on dressing up either, but I look forward to seeing everybody's costumes in the city. And hope you guys all have fun in the parties and stay safe as well. And stay tuned for some help. Take care.